Welcome back to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teeny Cadma, Bitten Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions, true crime. A new episode on every Cadmaniac Monday for 52 Mondays, 52 crimes. So I hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like, leave a comment, feedback, subscribe. It's YouTube. You know the drill. And of course, I always say viewer discretion is always advised. However, this episode does contain information about harm and death to young children. So again, viewer discretion is advised. Today's story actually takes us out to Memphis, Tennessee, right? We're good old Elvis and all that good, right? Her name is, this time I'm trying to learn how to pronounce it. So Shanynthia Gardner. Her nickname was Yari. I will be referring to her as Yari for this entire episode. Yari was your typical average Tennessee girl. She loved to sing, and she was building apparently a reputation in Memphis for her voice and songwriting. She loved spending time in church. She had a great passion for music, and she just loved hanging out with her friends and her family. Very, very, very loving. So, while during this time, Yari met a man named Detrail Clayton. They were dating for some time, and eventually they got hitched. And just so if anyone's confused, this is not the same Detrail Clayton that's in Texas that was arrested for, I believe, shooting a minor. It's a different Detrail Clayton. But her Detrail Clayton does have a criminal history, which does include charges of disorderly conduct as well as some traffic violations. And then some court documents that said that he was arrested for allegedly beating a woman in 2008, but the charges were dismissed. That's all I could find, but because, again, the focus is on Yari. A year later from this particular, case or charges were filed, she actually gave birth to their first son, Dallin. Unfortunately, the marriage did not last long. There were no details about what happened in particular, but basically Yari moves on and meets Martin Gardner, and they wed. And this is kind of where I need you to keep track of the timeline, right? So in 2012, she gives birth to her first son with Martin named Talon. Now in 2013, she gave birth to her first daughter, Sia. In 2014, she gives birth to her daughter, Savi, and then in 2015, 2016, she gave birth to her youngest, Yazi. Now, she also worked at St. Jude's Children's Hospital part-time, right? She worked in the ALSAC that focuses on fundraising and awareness. It's unclear how long she actually worked there in particular, but she did work there. Now, Yadi's referred to as a very loving mother. She loves kids, and she's just very happy, very giving, very warm. The only crazy incident she really has prior to anything else is when her son Dallin was about 2 years old. There was apparently some sort of small incident that required her to go to court, but she never showed up for it. Now, I only mention this because it couldn't have been that possibly serious, because I couldn't find anything under her criminal records, and then I also couldn't find anything that seemed like, oh my god, this was crazy. So I'm assuming it was something like a ticket dispute or a small claims, whatever it is, right? So as this continues, of course, if it wasn't anything serious down the line, we wouldn't be here. But over time, Yari began to feel the stress and the weight of motherhood, right? So between all of these 5 kids, she begins to show signs of stress, anxiety, paranoia, and then erratic behavior. In hindsight, people feel like, oh, she may have been suffering from postpartum. So when I say erratic behavior, that's so crazy, I mean as in March 2015, Yari showed more and more bizarre signs of paranoia with her friends and family. And they were just very unsure of where this was coming from, right? So it's March 2015. Yari, there's 2 sources. One says she went out for a run after 9 p.m. and her husband had reported her missing. And then there was another moment where she apparently left work early, picked up her kids, packed them all into the car, and then drove 95 miles away from Memphis to Corinth, Mississippi. It was confirmed that she didn't know anyone out there. She just picked up and left without reason, at least no known reason, right? At least from what I have found in the reports. But she was only found later on because she was apparently at the hospital. Now, at the hospital, they stated that she has some superficial lacerations to her wrist and to her neck. in hindsight, I wonder if that was her trying to commit suicide either in front of the kids or maybe kill the kids then and then kill herself right afterwards. I mean, who knows, right? The kids would be too young to really know anyway at that particular time in 2015. So because she's found at the hospital, of course, she's returned home. But when she returns home, she's still complaining to her friends and her family and her husband about her job. She's absolutely paranoid. She keeps telling them, like, someone's out to get my kids. Someone's out to harm my family. It's like someone's trying to hurt me. And this was coming from everywhere. And everyone's kind of like, whoa, where's this coming from? Now, mentioning her bizarre behavior, these are the moments that I feel like people should be paying attention, right? Sometimes something may seem harmless or like it's temporary, right? But these are the moments that I think is probably the most important to check up on someone. No, I know. It's not going to be perfect. Not everything can be prevented. I understand that, but every little bit helps. You know what I mean? Some sources, again, they keep referring to her as having possibly postpartum. Now, some of you are like, what's that? Postpartum depression is also called the baby blues, right? So this is a depression that a woman goes through after giving birth. This commonly includes her having mood swings, crying spells, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, reduced concentration, difficulty sleeping. This generally begins within the first 2 to 3 days after giving birth. Now, it also has been stated that fathers are able to experience postpartum depression as well. Because we all know newborns require a lot of work, right? However, with women, it is speculated that part of the contribution to the baby blues is from the drastic drop in estrogen and progesterone. Now, progesterone is that asshole hormone that maintains a woman's period and setting up what my father liked to call a house inside the body and paints the walls blue and pink as it waits for a baby. Don't ask me why that was his explanation, but whatever. Estrogen, besides being against you each month, it's what makes women curvier. You know, obviously I run low on it, but it also gives women that, that amazing glow. And when your estrogen levels are high, it helps keeps your blood triglycerides, which is actually a type of fat, and it increases your high density let me say that slower for everyone. High density lipoprotein, HDL cholesterol, the good shit, and then it lowers your low density lipoprotein cholesterol, the bad shit. I'm sorry, I just know sometimes I talk too fast and I was like, I said that too quick. Let me just slow it down for the audience. In other words, it keeps your heart nice and healthy and happy, right? So the hormone does a lot. It does even protection for osteoporosis. It helps with that. It improves your mood. It keeps your like the ocean. And there was a study that even showed apparently the longer exposure you have to estrogen, it improves your brain health. Just gonna leave that right there and say that. Cool. So picture if you're not a female, right? Just picture it. Your body is high on hormones. You've got the glow like you're the last dragon, like you're Leroy Green. Show enough. Your temple, that's your temple that deserves the right to do whatever it wants. To let the cat out of the bag. Sorry, just let me get back. But basically, your hormones go from you letting the baby out, and then your hormones just plummets. Now you got low estrogen, you're stressed out, you lost some blood, and your body's going through some drastic changes. So now you got the baby blues, right? Here's where you should pay attention to someone who's got the baby blues, right? The baby blues can only last 2 weeks. Anything longer, the symptoms become more and more intense, and eventually it graduates to postpartum psychosis. Now, sources say, you can fully recover from pregnancy and childbirth, but it takes 6 to 8 months, medically speaking, okay? Medically speaking, it takes that long. Just wanted a reminder for impatient testicle carriers as well as corporate bosses, just how they know how that works. Cool. Mm-hmm. But postpartum psychosis is actually a very serious mental health illness, and it affects around 1 in 500 mothers after giving birth. Now, you're going to be like, that's nothing. No, it's a large number because on average about 140 million women give birth every year without having to be forced. Out of those 140 million, it's reported that about 11,000 of them die from giving birth. However, when looking at postpartum psychosis, out of 140 million women, we're looking at 280,000 women with a high potentially capability of having this particular psychosis. That's a big number, right? Now we're not looking at just 500. Symptoms of postpartum psychosis includes hallucinations, delusions, manic moods, a low mood, like you're just going from depression. You could even be feeling lethargic. It could be a mixture between a manic mood and a low mood because you're just kind of bouncing between the two of them. They become paranoid, suspicious, fearful, often confused, and restless. I mean, the body can live without a lot of things. Sleep is not one of them. Of course, the last symptom is behaving out of character, right? You know, like picking up your kids and just going 95 miles away to a town that you don't actually know and ending up in a hospital without explanation with injuries for funsies. Ha! That would be weird. So now if we look over her, it is highly possible that what led up to these gruesome events is what Yari was suffering from in regards to postpartum psychosis. Now, she has her first child in 2009. She's got her first failed marriage already over there. And there were no reports, like, again, that I reminded for stating that after her first pregnancy that she suffered from the baby blues. But nonetheless, let's keep going. First marriage ends. She meets Martin. Then becomes pregnant, right? Now, immediately, after she's with Martin, she has 4 more kids. Back to back to back to back. There's 12 months in a year. She can only be pregnant for 9 of them. Those months in between, those 4 months means that her hormones are fluctuating. Remember when I said 6 to 8 months to properly heal? That time isn't there. So that means her hormones are going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down. This is in between 4 births, right? On top of the stress, on top of the normal baby blues. Now it's developing into postpartum psychosis. For an individual who is more susceptible to developing the psychosis in comparison to another woman who may not be as susceptible to having that psychotic break. Now, Yari begins to talk about being paranoid, right? She's got all these paranoid thoughts, right? She's talking to her friends, her family, her husband. She's like, someone is out to harm my family. No precedence, no who, what, why, when, nothing. No explanation. She just knows this. She complains more and more and more about work. She's feeling more high-strung about work, but no one really knows why. She loved it there. She wasn't really having these problems before, so where is it coming from? She felt the people at work were trying to get her. Her paranoia is simply increasing. This is the part that I believe is common for people to dismiss, and they think whatever is happening with this person is merely temporary when someone's behavior changes. This is why I think it's so important for psychology classes to be taught in middle school and high school as a mandatory class, because you could literally create a generation of people who recognize the signs, or rather the calls for help, right? Anyways, Yari had all of these increasing signs of mental health, but no signs of abuse towards her kids, no signs of violence towards her kids. If anything, she showed that she would do what any other mother would do, right? Kill for her kids, right? So now we're about to discuss what happens on July 1st, 2016 at around noon, right? So now she's alone with the 5 kids. Yadi's mind finally fucking snaps. She's on the phone with her husband, Martin. She's like, hey, babe, being calm. And she's like, oh, by the way, I'm about to go watch a movie with the kids. And while she's chatting on the phone with her husband, she picks up the butcher knife from the kitchen and walks into the living room to where the baby carrier, who has the youngest 6-month-old Yazi, and she slits her throat. She travels from her and then moves over. Now as she's going through the home, tell me she doesn't remind you of our Polish friend, Damian Rosowski, right? Now, next to Yazi was her little older sister, I believe was about 2. She kills her. Dallin, the oldest, is witnessing everything that is happening to his siblings, right? Yari makes her way to the bedroom where Talon and Savi remain, right? She stabs them in the throat. She stabs them in the chest. After killing 4 of those 5 children, she exits the apartment with the knife in hand, looking for Dallin, her oldest son. Her oldest son happens to flag down this man, a neighbor pedestrian. He's like, oh my God, oh my God. My mom stabbed my sister. At this exact moment, he looks up to find Yadi standing out there with a butcher knife, and she sees him, decides not to do anything, and then goes right back into the apartment. What just happened here? What just happened? She snapped. She utterly snapped. Cops get there around 12:50, and then they just uncover a crazy fucking mess. She's obviously picked up. She did acknowledge that she killed her kids. And then Martin's classmates create a GoFundMe from his high school to help him bury his kids, his 4 kids. She faced 4 counts of first-degree murder for the stabbing deaths of her young children, charged with the 4 counts of first-degree murder, right? In association with the aggravated child neglect, 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, and aggravated child neglect or endangerment. Recently, the case finally went through and everything, so she's actually going to be in prison for like 51 years. She is 32 years old. This is there's a speculation or discussion rather that talks about like how she doesn't belong in prison, right? And she needs to be placed into a mental institution instead of prison. This is all very abrupt, right? Where did this come from? Right? Because everything seemed okay. You know, maybe things weren't that great with the trail, whatever happened over there. But things seemed okay-ish with Martin. And I was talking to my best friend about this because I was just like, from what I'm understanding, her body did not get a break, especially with all those kids. So if she's already suffering from postpartum, getting knocked up again is not going to help her at all. It's just going to completely exacerbate the situation. It takes 6 to 8 months to properly heal. You're pregnant for 9 months, so that means 9 months of pregnancy and then 6 to 8 months to heal. Now, granted, some women heal a little bit faster, right? But we're looking at 6 to 8 months, right? So let's just go to the max. That's 18 months. That's almost, right? It's like a year and a half to almost 2 years. Getting knocked up in between that time instead of properly healing, I don't think it was worth it. I don't think it was worth the pressure on her head, because now Martin has to bury his 4 kids. And, you know, and I saw some papers were like, she was just a crazed monster. And I was just like, no. Here's where the issue is. What she did, fucked up, right? Completely fucked up. I'm on you on that. But there were signs. There were mental illness signs, and I feel like it was just sort of brushed under the rug or just not taken as seriously. Now, I couldn't find if she was on some medication, which is what I wanted to know, if she was off her meds. But it did really emphasize what I really stand by. Psychology classes should be taught in middle school and high school. Imagine a team full of people who are able to recognize when something is wrong. That means if someone's working at McDonald's, they'll know something is up with their coworker or a customer who walks through the door. If someone is an officer, they'll have a better idea of how to approach someone, because you're distributing psychological first aid. If you have someone who's a teacher, they can recognize the signs when a student is being abused or what's happening with the parent. It opens up to me, and maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe I don't have the fucking answers. But in my head, from what I'm seeing, an entire team of people who can recognize when someone needs psychological assistance, whether it's a therapist, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist, depending on whatever's going on with that person, a team of people can actually recognize it. And I think that absolutely changes everything. Completely changes everything, right? Imagine something's going wrong, something's going chaotic, and someone knows how to distribute psychological first aid to say, hey, this doesn't seem okay. This does not seem okay. Imagine if that had happened, and that could have saved the lives of these 4 beautiful kids. I mean, there was so much that could have been done, but I feel like it's just because mental health is often just kind of revered as like, no, I don't go to that. Or even just someone recently I was talking to them about therapy. And they did not want to go. They were like, no, I'm not going, because the people in therapy, they also talk to people because they want to work themselves through their problems. And I'm like, you're missing the point of therapy. The point is actually 2 people helping each other, but you have a professional doing it to help you. Sure, they may have some self-reflection and are able to help themselves, but the point is that they have the capability to help you in comparison to what another person who is not trained to do. Now, maybe more people could have helped this individual if we had an entire team, right? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm going crazy and this is just my silly idea. But it's a really sad, devastating case. I mean, Martin comes home to find the cops trying to explain to him that his 4 kids are gone and that's it. And then to die such a brutal way. I mean, she acknowledges that she killed them. And even in her mugshot, she's like, you can see she's just a little off. She's just smirking. And it just seemed like the solution was, let's just throw her in prison. And some people are completely against that. They're like, she needs to be in a mental institution. I think she needs to be completely evaluated psychologically. And then also see if this really is postpartum psychosis. And if she does have postpartum psychosis, why not take the time to really understand how this really works and how this operates? How long could this possibly last? Does she have a psychotic break because she had too many kids back to back? And was that what that fluctuation of like good hormone, bad hormone, like, you know, going back and forth, is that the reason why everything went the way that it did? And was it because it was too much? I think they really could take a really good opportunity to really try to get inside of her head to really understand. I think it should be a neuropsychologist and then probably a forensic psychologist working together in order to figure out what's going on, because you want to see what's going on biologically as well to see if there's any internal factors as well as external factors in regards to solving like what's happening. And if you can figure out what's happening there, perhaps maybe those over 200,000 women who are more likely to suffer from postpartum psychosis, we can find the signs and spot it out a hell of a lot faster before anything actually happens. Sorry, I got like way too into it, but I just wanted to cover this case. I apologize that my episode was late. I've been doing a lot of stuff. But again, I apologize. I'm getting like sidetracked because I really think we just need to put psychology and psychological first aid classes in middle school and high school. I really think it would change a lot of things. But I digress. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Again, I apologize that it was late. Make sure you give me some feedback, leave me some commentary. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know. I know sometimes I talk a mile a minute, like I can speak at New York minute speed, and that's just who I am. But again, thank you guys so much, and you guys have a great day. Bye.